You can't take feminism seriously because ultimately we're all people, and the only philosophy to really believe in is humanism. We have a lot of feminists right now online writing about this Elliot Rodger's case, basically trying to capitalize off of the Elliot Rodger's case and using it as a platform in which to preach their feminist ideology. And basically their entire feminist ideology is that women are objectified. We have a patriarchy of male dominance where men are just granted stuff and we have to fight that. This whole thing is just a mass of shit. What they don't want to do is look at things from a male perspective, because when one of your core beliefs is that women are objectified but men aren't, therefore you can't say that men are objectified. So it serves the feminists no purpose. It doesn't help them at all to say men are objectified. And you're not going to hear men say that they are objectified, because for a man to say that he's being objectified is within the context of our culture to say they're not a real man. The idea is that men are supposed to believe that they are nothing more than baboons. That we're supposed to be out in the wild fighting for alpha dominance over each other, and the reward is pussy and money. So men are trained in this culture that their value as human beings is equated to how many women they fuck and how much money they earn. That's it, or just how much sex they have in general compared to and how much money they earn. So that's the message coming in, especially if you look at our media and so forth. There's the idea that that's what's repeated. A real man is this. Male self-esteem is then wrapped up, tightly connected to these other things. So if someone's not having sex, it's not, oh, I'm not having sex. It suddenly becomes, I'm now a worthless person, because there's this hierarchy, this imaginary hierarchy of the alpha dominant male and one at the bottom. So that's the culture that men are brought up, that you have to be aggressive, you have to be dominant. This is the attitude that women will often like, in that they'll fawn after men who are they basically projecting alpha dominance. As someone who's not an alpha dominant man, there's nothing that I detest more than one of these men telling me what to do, which is why I'm not around them, and they don't want to be around me because I won't listen to them. But humans are animals, and there's a lot of evolutionary baggage going around. As a culture, it would be best to transcend this bullshit of saying your value isn't how many women want to have sex with you, because that's then objectifying someone. When you say you're nothing but a walking dildo for women and your worth is how many women you can put it in, that's turning a man into an object. When you tell a man that his worth is in how much money he makes and he's just a robot to go to work and do something to make money, all of a sudden he's an object. So there again, he is objectified. Our culture will not allow men to complain about being objectified, because they will be accused of therefore not being a real man. Because a real alpha dominant man who goes out and has all this sex and makes all this money isn't going to complain, because he's going to be happy about it. And therefore to complain about it is to insult yourself, it's to demean yourself, and so forth. This is stupid. Of course, there will be some people watching this, and the only reply that they can have is that you're not a real man. If I was that stupid, I would just want to kill myself. You can't argue with stupid. If someone's just fucked in the head and just, what are you going to say? Oh, I'm sorry, I want to be analytical, and I'm sorry that I consider myself to be somewhere evolutionarily beyond the level of a baboon. But I guess that makes one not a real man. Because when they, you know, we really need to do is move to a culture that does not objectify people. That's the goal. That's I don't. What's with this feminist bullshit where everything is to be reduced down to culture's beliefs about women. I don't know why anyone would believe that men go around feeling that they're entitled to stuff. Men are taught that they are entitled to nothing and that they have to go out and fight to get things, and that they're taught that that's their identity, is to go out and to compete, and unless you go out and compete and assert dominance, then you're not entitled to shit. So the message that men are given is that they're not entitled to anything. Why are women writing online saying that we have a culture where men feel that they're entitled to things because they're men, when the complete opposite is true? You want to stop the culture where men are told that they're less than who they are because they're not having sex or making lots of money. And finally, the characteristics that should be honored in someone is things like honesty, how much integrity they have, how compassionate they have, how much empathy do they have, especially for people who are suffering. Those are the characteristics that we should honor in people. Some man grunting and acting like an alpha dominant baboon is not anything that should be praised whatsoever. Of course, there are men who will have that certain energy, and there are women who will fawn over them for that. 2 days ago and a couple months ago, I made another video about giving money to someone in the street. I'm on 7th Avenue, and there's this, I would guess, early 20s, maybe even 19-year-old girl who's homeless, sitting there with her dog. And she has the cup out there. So this is right by Macy's. When you live in a world where you go outside and you see a 20-something-year-old girl living on the street, there are no real men there, and there are no real women, there are no real humans, there's just a bunch of animals. That's a sick society where people have ascended to a level of civilization where they are anything that should be really human. It's just dumb animals. To go out into this world where this person is living on the street and to have a game where women are looking at men to see who's the most alpha dominant, there are no real men there if they don't care about that. That's the bottom line. And that's the standard. And you can't just give money to everyone. So I ended up doing something unusual. I gave her $20 because I had $300 in my wallet. Should I have given her more? I could have given her 100. I could have given her 200. I mean, the only thing that seems to matter is people suffering and what you do to alleviate that. And this stupid game that men are to compete for alpha dominance is not something that should be tolerated. And ideally, you should just have men rejecting this and saying, I have value as a person, and my value is who I am, not this stuff. But we have a culture that won't allow it. We have women who won't like that, and we have lots of stupid men who, as soon as they hear another man say that, they will demean, bully, insult, degrade, dehumanize that man, calling him not a real man because he's not out to fuck pussy. So I'm not that impressed by any of this. I'm not impressed by these bullshit feminists. I'm not impressed by feminism. I think it's full of shit. The only thing is humanism. And, okay, I guess, well, the point of that is that if we live in a world where people are suffering, then it's alleviating that's the only thing that matters. And at the end of the day, for personally, what I think about myself, it has to be related to how I act around other people in terms of someone in need, for example, and that sort of thing. It's not about the superficiality. And if that means that I don't go around acting like some alpha dominant baboon, and I do other things, well, then that's just the way it is. But it seems like it's the coward who has to put on the front of alpha dominance and act like something because they're weak minded and they have to fall into society's perception. But it actually takes more courage to say, fuck the game and try to be a person. And if everyone did that, we live in a better world. Because we shouldn't have men going around trying to be alpha dominant in the face of suffering. If you were to even try to define what a real man should be according to some primitive notion of taking care of or providing for people, how can you have someone who's a real man in the face of suffering and do that? So I reject the concept, but the concept itself, as it applies to our society, is nothing but hypocrisy. The idea that a real man is someone who dresses up in a monkey suit. And by the way, these fancy jackets that men wear with the shoulders and all that, it's to put forth certain features and how someone looks to match up like gorillas, basically. So when someone's wearing a business suit, it's basically a monkey suit. Someone walk around with this, flashing money, trying to get pussy. That is betraying the essence of what it should really mean to be a man, if we want to say a man is a provider to everyone. That that's the ultimate hypocrisy. Of course, you tell it to some of these women, they'll be like, "Fuck you," and they'll just want to fawn over that person because they don't care either. Because we live in a very selfish world. Okay, bye.